This is Jackie Weisfield for EDL 851, talking about legal aspects of teacher evaluation with a brief overview and then a connection to Inglewood Public Schools, which is where I work right now. So I started with ESSA and teacher evaluation, and ESSA allows states to design their own teacher evaluation systems. The piece that I found most interesting is that it does not have to include student test scores as a major component. The states have taken that on. So there are over half of the states that make student test scores 50% or more of a teacher's evaluation, and ESSA does not require that. They do require that student test scores be a part of it, but not a percentage. Teachers and other educational professionals need to, at minimum, be consulted on the evaluation procedures, and it has to be a meaningful consultation. It can't be, this is what we came up with, here, is this good enough? It has to be teachers and educational professionals coming to the table saying, this is what we need in there, this reflects what we do on a daily basis, and this is an okay way to measure what I do on a daily basis. And it puts the onus back on the states regarding education. So federal influence on education is actually lessened through ESSA. Because evaluation systems have become so high stakes for teachers, many of the evaluation systems have come under the scrutiny of the courts. So in Florida, the courts upheld a district's right to use school-wide growth measures for teachers who are not a part of the state testing system. So maybe your art teachers or music teachers, some other specialists, they are allowed to use a school-wide growth measure rather than the students' individual test scores. And Florida also did uphold the ability to provide merit pay for highly effective teachers. In Louisiana, the courts allowed teacher evaluation to impact both tenure and pay scales without violating the Louisiana Constitution. In Nevada, teachers have a right to due process and cannot be stripped of post-probationary status or fired without due process for consecutive ineffective evaluation ratings. So that allowed for Nevada teachers to have real recourse in ineffective evaluations. They had to be able to go through, or they had the right to go through due process and couldn't just be stripped of that status. In New Mexico, the evaluation system was upheld by the courts in terms of whether or not appropriate data was used. There are still questions about that. In New York, the evaluation process does not fully take into account factors of poverty in the student growth measure. That is another piece of litigation that has come to the forefront, and there's not been a decision about what kind of factors that might have to take into account. Poverty impacts students in a lot of different ways, and so to try and take into account all of those factors and tie them to student growth measures is a tricky situation. In Tennessee, school-wide growth measures are allowed to be used in teacher evaluations, and the use of scores was upheld, but it was decided that it's not a judicial but a democratic decision in the state of Tennessee. And so the court said, we're not going to judge on these things anymore. It needs to be something that you take up within the district, within the union, and you need to figure that out in terms of creating a democracy in your school district. And in Texas, student growth algorithms were decided to be vague and that they lacked transparency. And so the value added measures were actually removed. So, in a particular court case, the Lederman versus King court case in New York, the court found in favor of the teachers or the specific teacher, and the use of value added measures the court ruled against the use of value added measures because it can lead to an arbitrary and capricious evaluation score. And that was a huge, huge win for teachers. And it was one of those pieces that let the dominoes fall. And so Texas then came in and said, no, you can't use value added measures. And at this point, most districts are not using value added measures. While they are still using student growth measures, the value added measures, because they're so vague and because there's so many pieces that are not transparent to the formula that districts are using, most districts are no longer using them. So in terms of teacher evaluation and why we've done this movement, it really started from Race to the Top. Race to the Top re-emphasized teacher evaluation. It had to include student achievement data, and it had to include 3 levels of performance. And when you are offering to provide schools with a good sum of money, there are a lot of people who will pay attention and will work on things that you are giving money for. And so that re-emphasized the idea of teacher evaluation. And like I said in the previous slide, recently there's been a movement away from value-added measures, just because they're not very reliable and they're definitely not transparent. In Englewood, we very clearly have a purpose set out for evaluation, and it's not meant to get rid of teachers. It's not meant to make teachers competitive against one another. It's really about personal and professional growth. It's about giving feedback. It's about actionable next steps. Our goal is to have collaborative conversations with teachers. It's much more about coaching and much less about a got you, as in terms of, are you doing what you're supposed to do? Have you implemented X, Y, and Z? We want to help teachers problem solve. We want to have alignment in achieving our goals as a district. We're a tiny, tiny district, relatively speaking. And so it's really about, how do we achieve our goals? How do I help you as a coach achieve your personal professional goals? And how do I help you work on our goals towards school improvement? And our ultimate goal as a district, but also then as a school and as teachers, is to have effective, high-quality education. So in Englewood Public Schools, we use the state system, and so it consists of 5 standards, and those are Master of Content and Pedagogy. Learning environment is conducive to, not only to learning, but it embraces diversity and teacher planning and delivery, a reflection on practice, and leadership. And those 5 standards are based on observations done of teachers in their classrooms, and that comprises 50% of their overall effectiveness rating. So again, that's 100% based on observation. We've added a 6th standard, which is based on student growth. And that would be that individual attribute section, that green section on the screen. That is 10% of a teacher score. So the 6 standards are equally weighted, 10% each. The district performance framework, the yellow section, is 10%, and then the school performance framework is 30%. So really, our teachers are engaged in helping each other so that that 30% is as high as possible. So if we can all get highly effective ratings in there, that's what we want, and everybody wants that. So that really helps to build our culture as a team in the school. For Standard 6, we're looking at the percent of students who make a year's worth of growth. And so this is just for that individual attribute quality category. And so less than 60% sets you, actually less than 70% is a rating of ineffective. If between 70 and 79.99% of your students make a year's growth in a year, you're considered partially effective. 80 to almost 90, you're effective, and 90 to 100% of your kids making a year's growth in a year rates you as highly effective in that standard number 6. So the process is that probationary teachers are observed 2 times a year, and then all of the other factors go into that as well. Non-probationary is 1 time a year, with a minimum of a 30-minute observation per time. Only non-probationary teachers can appeal ratings of ineffective or partially effective, and in that appeal, it's written documentation to the superintendent, and the teacher provides all of that additional documentation. It's reviewed by the superintendent by June 15th, and whatever the superintendent rules in terms of that evaluation is what stands in the teacher's file. There is nothing in the Englewood Public Schools negotiated agreement that talks about a number of ineffective evaluations pushing you down to non-probationary status, or back down to probationary status. There's nothing about firing a teacher. It is strictly, how are we going to coach you to get better? So it's less high stakes than some of the schools and districts that we've read about. So in my work that I've done over this module, I found a real need to collaborate with the teachers union. I found a real need for very meticulous documentation when I'm doing teacher observations and approaching it from a lens of improving instruction, really doing what's best for students in the classroom. Making it meaningful for teachers is going to be very important, and staying up to date on current laws and statutes in the state, as well as federal legislation and new court rulings, are also going to be really important as I become an administrator. Thanks for listening.